Ooh, Bad Larry.
Welcome back, Bad Larry Kingdom. My name is Bad Larry, and today we're checking out The Tomb of Dracula, issue number 2, presented by Stan Lee, Gerry Conway, and Gene Colan. This episode is titled The Fear Within. Last issue ended with Dracula bouncing because the castle burned down. Frank was left basically empty-handed because his girlfriend, fiancée, Jeannie, has been turned into a vampire, and his friend Clifton is nowhere to be found, presumably dead. Apparently, a few days has passed. The fire and the castle has subsided and has left the castle in ruins, rubble. Frank Drake, the man with the lantern, has returned to the castle with a companion, this bald guy named Gort. And Gort doesn't speak a whole lot. He's basically there just so Frank Drake doesn't have to do any heavy lifting. He's not too concerned about Dracula. He knows Dracula beat feet. What he's doing, he's just surveying the premises. If you put yourself in Frank Drake's position right now, it's dead ass dark. You were just attacked by a vampire a few days ago. Your girlfriend was turned by a vampire. You think your best friend burned up inside this castle. And now you're just traipsing around with some retard who can't speak with only a lantern to guide you through the burnt rubble. You don't know if there's more vampires around, but he finds an entrance. He's going deeper and deeper into the castle's guts of what remains, and he comes upon the Tomb of Dracula. As Frank opens the tomb, he finds the candelabra lit. Who lit these candles? He thinks it must be Count Dracula. He must have just been here, unless he's mistaken. Who else could have been who lit the candles? And it's sitting right on top of Dracula's casket. As soon as he touches the casket, Frank Drake has a memory flashback of how we got here, everything that we went over in episode number 1. And then as his mind casts back to Jeannie and how Dracula has turned her into a vampire blood-sucking bitch, he gets pissed. He slams the casket and he's thinking there's gotta be a way to save her. And then he hears some rumbling from the trapdoor. Help me. Frank yells at Gort, "You big dummy, open up that trapdoor. That sounds like Clifton." Frank Drake is super happy that he was able to save Clifton, even though Clifton is a dirty, rotten, scoundrel, backstabbing son of a bitch. But after spending probably 4, 5, maybe 6 days down in that hole with the remains of Dracula's victims, thinking probably no one's ever gonna save you, you're just gonna die in this hole full of bones and become bones yourself, Clifton definitely has got PTSD. So I guess it's even Steven with him and Frank. Here's where we really see the early 70s culture shine through in this issue and this series. Clifton has just had a severely traumatic experience. He's grabbing onto Frank. He's desperate. He's got PTSD. Clearly, look at his eyes. They're all whacked out. He's telling Frank that Dracula came after him. He shot him with the gun. Nothing happened. He threw him in the hole. You know what Frank says to Clifton? "Suck it up, Buttercup. We gotta steal Dracula's coffin." Frank is no empathy for Clifton. You gotta be a man around these parts in the 70s, I tell you what. And where exactly is Count Dracula? Well, the comic says that he's only a mere scant yards away. That's not that many yards away from where Frank is. Count Dracula attacks and pounces on his third white woman since he's been arisen from his slumber, and her screams are heard throughout the village. Dr. Von Harbo, the man with the glasses and the white beard, is one of those villagers who heard the screams, along with his patient. The patient tells Dr. Von Harbo, "Here, doctor, apparently all of a sudden my back feels a whole lot better. I gotta go see my family. All right, send the bill in the mail, gotta run by." And he leaves just in time, which is good because Count Dracula is on his way to Dr. Von Harbo's clinic as we speak. Apparently, Count Dracula isn't the kind of vampire that needs to be invited inside because he just busts his ass right through the door. He says, "Von Harbo, attend me." So clearly, Dr. Von Harbo was a servant to Count Dracula before he was killed, or the stake was driven through his heart. And here we have a little bit of a continuity problem because in the first issue, it said that Dracula was gone, sleep, dead for over 100 years. And clearly, Dr. Von Harbo is not over 100 years old, so we'll just let that slide for now. Dracula tells Dr. Von Harbo, "You know, I was staked in the heart. I was asleep for 100 years. or so, give or take. And the years have not been very good to your Count Dracula. My skin looks white as chalk. You have to attend me and make me look human so I can walk around and not be scaring all the white women away. In the top right panel, it says, after many hours of experimentation and finally an operation, Count Dracula tells Dr. Von Harbo, excellent! I look exactly like one of your mere weakling mortals. And I'm sure you guys have two eyes. Count Dracula looks exactly the same. His skin color looks exactly the same. So Dr. Harbo tells Count Dracula, well, Count, are y'all done with me now? Now that I've made you look so much different than when you came in here, even though we know he looks exactly the same. And Count Dracula's like, no! Don't you think I forgot what you did to me all those years ago? And Dr. Harbo's like, Count Dracula, but I was just a boy. Count Dracula says, I don't give a flip. You're the one who handed me over to my murderers. Your payment will be a bite to the neck. We jump 2 weeks ahead and we're back in balmy London, and we see our protagonist Frank Drake dripped out in the red jacket and white gloves. He's flush with cash again. His money woes are over. How, you might ask? Well, he sold the burnt out ruins of the castle and the land surrounding it, so now he's cash money again. Apparently burned out castles and land in Transylvania still bring a pretty penny on the real estate market. They're loading Dracula's casket onto the airplane, and Clifton is asking Frank, oh, aren't you gonna be scared about customs and all of that? And Frank's like, don't worry about it, I paid everybody off. Meanwhile, back in Frank Drake's apartment, or his hotel room, he's getting undressed. He hears something in the bathroom. He's like, what the flip's going on here? He goes to investigate. He's like, there better not be something freaky behind this curtain. It better be Clifton. I wonder what it is. As Frank Drake walks into the bathroom and he slowly pulls the curtain back, he finds that it's that vampire bitch Jeannie. She tries to tell Frank, I'm just a human, I'm alive. But Frank Drake's got that pimp juice inside him. He can smell the vampire inside of her. He shakes her around. He says, you're none but a dirty vampire. Slams her against the wall. He's not gonna be trifled with. Clifton's drunk ass meanders into Frank Drake's room. And you know what? People who are drunk are easily manipulated and hypnotized. I mean, look at Clifton's googly eyes. They're all over the place. He tells Jeannie, oh, it's nice to see you, Jeannie. Where you been? And Frank snaps at Clifton and says, shut up, Clifton. This isn't Jeannie. This is some vampire bitch. Look into her eyes. She's got skeletons in her eyes. And Clifton's like, oh, Philly, you're just being silly. It's all Jeannie. And Clifton brings out the cross and is like, oh yeah? Is Jeannie afraid of this cross? Look at her. She's terrified. Humans aren't afraid of crosses. Only vampire bitches are afraid of crosses. Right outside Frank Drake's window, Count Dracula can hear the screams of Jeannie. And he says, nah, I have faith in the old gal. She'll pull off the plan. But in the meantime, I see me a tasty white morsel. Better check her out. Now, you know I tease Count Dracula a little bit about looking like a pimp. But as you can see, I've included a picture of a real pimp, and they look exactly the same. 50 years looking back, we can see that the culture had adopted a certain look, and obviously the artist and the writer didn't intentionally create Dracula to be a pimp, but that's what he is. Count Dracula pulls up a seat next to his prey, and he says, I'ma buy you a drink, oh, and then I'll take you home with me. I got money in the bank, oh. Then Count Dracula says, here's a beer for your name, love. What is it? She says, my name's Ellie. What should I call you? He says, call me Pimp Daddy D if you like. You'll be going home with me. She's like, for sure, I'm going home with you. And then Count Dracula gets a tap on the shoulder, and some dude's like, oi, Gov, you can't be picking up on my bird. That's my girl. Prepare for the fisticuffs. Old mate in the red hat grabs up Dracula by the cloak and says, oi, Gov, listen here, fancy face. My name here's Bart, and I run these parts here. and I'm about to beat your face in for talking to my bed. And Count Dracula, calm as a cucumber, says, oh yeah? Listen here, Michael Jackson. Why don't you beat it? And wallops him with a backhand cane to the face. Count Dracula's pimp hand is mighty strong. Our young victim looks upon Count Dracula in amazement, awe, and excitement. She wants his body and he wants hers, but for vastly different reasons. Count Dracula takes Ellie around the corner and drains her body of her life. This is now Count Dracula's fourth white woman of the series that he's victimized. Bart and his buddies are too late. They heard the screams, but they couldn't get to Ellie in time. They see her lifeless body on the ground as Count Dracula transforms into a bat and flies away, and all I can say is, oh, good lord. Now that Count Dracula has had his fill, he's ready for a nap. And the Prince of Darkness of the Night is no fool. He has a room directly above Frank Drake's. Count Dracula has acknowledged Frank Drake's cleverness in stealing his casket, but said that the fool thinks it's the wood that matters, but it matters not. It is the Transylvania dirt, the earth, which Dracula needs to sleep in. The coffin is just, it's like sentimental. He's gonna get it back anyway. He's got Jeannie down there solving that problem for him. Meanwhile, one room directly below Count Dracula's is Clifton, Frank, and Jeannie. Frank has Jeannie all tied up because he don't trust that vampire bitch. But Clifton Graves is drunk as a skunk, and Jeannie's using her feminine wiles mixed with the vampire pimp juice and saying, oh, Clifton, this isn't normal. Who ties a gal up in the hotel room? This is weird. I'm just a normal girl. I love you, Clifton. Let me out of here. Clifton is drunk as a skunk and is now fully hypnotized. He looks in the mirror and says, that's kind of weird that Jeannie's got no reflection, but she's got a super nice rack and I want to hit that. So I gotta make her mine. And Clifton puts a little simple plan into effect and says, hey, Frankie boy, you want some tea or coffee? I got you somebody. And Frank's like, yeah, man, I've been staying awake all night trying to wait for this Dracula to show up. Thanks for the coffee. Oh, it's drugged, you son of a bitch, Clifton. Here comes Dracula. Dracula busts in. He says, this plan is too easy. You mere mortals are simpletons. Count Dracula then asks Jeannie, hey, Jeannie, my bride, how is this Clifton? Is he, do I have to kill him? She's like, no, I got him under the pimp juice mind control. Everything's all good, my lord. Somehow, those drugs were super duper weak because Frank Drake is right back to full comprehension as he sees Jeannie and Count Dracula take Clifton into another room. It's about to get funky in this next room, people. And he jumps into action. He says, no, you're not gonna bite this man, even though he's a dirty, rotten scoundrel. Be gone, thoughts. He shines the cross at them. Jeannie says to Clifton, attack him, kill Frank, because Jeannie still has Clifton under super hypnotic mind control. Clifton is no match for Frank Drake. Frank Drake's pimp hand is too strong, and with one left hook, Frank Drake floors Clifton. Now Count Dracula is super annoyed with Frank Drake. He says, cousin, you have betrayed me. We could have been something great together. And with the speed of an superhuman, he attacks Frank. And Frank's like, I'll never join you. I have to do what I gotta do. You're a monster. While Dracula is attending to Frank Drake, Clifton's ass is knocked out. Jeannie is still a vampire and the thirst for blood is burning inside of her. She's looking at Clifton's neck and saying, don't mind if I do. Meanwhile, we know that Frank Drake's on the JV team compared to Dracula, and Dracula's treating him as such, tossing his ass hithery and tithery. Jeannie's right about to bite Clifton's neck as Frank Drake comes to. Luckily, a shard of wood is right in his hands from where Dracula had thrown him through a table, and with an act of courage, Frank Drake stabs Jeannie right in the back, saving his backstabbing friend Clifton from being drank by a dirty bitch vampire. For all of Frank Drake's bad luck, he has a lot of good luck as well. And right now, the sunrise is his best friend. Count Dracula sees that dawn is about to break, so he's gotta bounce. Bat form, peace out, Motown left, I'll find another bride, I gots to go. And in an act of romantic Greek tragedy, Jeannie dies from the sunlight for a second time in front of Frank Drake. She tells Frank to just let it happen. The sun is cleansing her of her pimp juice, venom, Dracula poison. She'd rather die like this than go back to living as a vampire. And we see Frank watch her just crumble into dust right in front of him. Clifton's still drunk. He's recovering from his hypnosis. He doesn't know what the hell's going on. And for the first time, Frank Drake knows for sure that Jeannie is dead. I really like this issue. It seems like even when Frank Drake does win against Dracula, he seems to lose something at the same time. It's a really balanced series. Let me know what you think about this episode. Give it a thumbs up please. Hit the subscribe button. Share this with your comic book friends. And be on the lookout for Dracula number 3, To Stalk a Vampire. Catch you on the next one.